So I've actually decided to break this episode into 2 parts. So we are doing my health issues first. And then for those of you who just really don't care about that, or new listeners of the show, they're like, I don't care if this guy's sick or not, you can go ahead and skip that and jump right to part 2. This is part 1 of episode 333, Halfway to Hell episode. And we're going to be talking about some crazy ghost stories that I've come across. But we're breaking it up into 2 parts. So part 1 is going to be me talking about what happened yesterday with my health. Part 2 is where we talk about a bunch of ghosts. So if you just want to get to the ghost stuff, jump to part 2, and the episode starts now. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Dead Rabbit Radio. I'm your host, Jason Carpenter. I'm having a great day. Hope you guys are having a great day too. My voice is a little hoarse, so I apologize for that. And if you're a new listener, the next 5 minutes will probably be kind of boring. But for the existing listeners, let me guys tell you about what happened. Because there's been a lot of questions about what happened to me yesterday, a lot of theories. I was shopping, my heart rate was super high, not because of the great deals at Walmart, but because of something else. I could feel my chest was flip-flopping. Now, I've talked about before I have anxiety attacks, and most of the time my anxiety attacks present themselves as heart attacks. So I tried calming down, but something really felt off. Like I could physically feel, I put my hand on my chest, I could physically feel my heart starting and stopping. So I go to the pharmacist, and this is a tip too, if you guys are ever sick with something, you can go to the pharmacist at like a Walmart or a Rite Aid or something like that, and they'll be more than willing to dispense advice to you. They can't necessarily give you a lot of medical advice, but she was able to feel my pulse, and she goes, it does feel irregular. So I used their little blood pressure machine they have there. I had a pulse of 120, so I was like, okay, I'm going to go to the hospital. So one of my friends takes me to the hospital from Walmart, and I go up there, and I get down on the bed, the little bed thing, and I'm like, yeah, my heart feels weird, and they're like checking my pulse, and they're like, yeah, okay, so let's get you into the room. And they start hooking me up to a machine, and I look over at it, and I go, that's not, my pulse really isn't 170, right? And the nurse looks over, she's like, oh, no, that's your pulse. And right when she said that, my pulse jumped up to 200. Because I was like, uh-oh. And I go, guys, should I be concerned about what's going on right now? And they said, listen, we're not in a hurry. This is a pretty common thing. We think you're an AFib, which is like afibrillation. They could pronounce it. I can't. But we think you're an AFib. This is something that happens to people. We got to find out why. It normally happens in older people. So anyways, long story short, they did all this blood work. They took x-rays. I watched World's Funniest Weather Videos. It's an actual show on the Weather Channel where it's bloopers of newscasters. That's a show you would only watch while you're trapped in a hospital. At no other point in time would you watch World's Funniest Weather Videos. So I watched that. I watched the whole thing. And then I was flipping through the channel, and I watched probably I was there for 5.5 hours at the hospital. I watched maybe the first hour of The Fate of the Furious, and I was laughing out loud. Mind you, I'm in an emergency room. There are like grieving families nearby. There's woman moaning to the left. She's like, ugh! And I'm like, laughing so hard every time something ridiculous happened. I had never seen Fate of the Furious before. Watch the first hour of that. This is what you guys have been waiting for. The diagnosis. So when I go in, I said, listen, here's the things that I've done recently to mess up. I've been doing keto. Now, I don't consider that a mess up, but I know there could be some health risks to that. I'm doing keto, and the doctor's like, okay. And previously to this, I was testing out weights at Walmart. I was picking up weights and throwing punches with them, so I might have pulled something and put some pressure on her. She's like, okay, Rocky, you don't do that. And I was like, yeah, I know, it's bad form. Because recently, as I've been walking, I've had these little hand weights, and I'll be throwing punches on them walking through town. And I wanted to see about getting some heavier weights. She's like, okay, yeah, but don't do that anymore. And I was like, yeah, done and done. And I said, I did have a lot of caffeine lately. And she goes, how much? And I go, well, in the past 24 hours, I had like a large coffee from Dog River. That's where I do all my research. I said, I've probably had about 4 or 5 Diet Pepsis. And she's like, And then I said, and I think I've told you guys about this before. I said, recently I gave up. I was chewing tobacco for 15 years. I switched that out with the lozenge, but I think the lozenge had too much sugar in it for my keto. So I dropped the lozenge, and then I switched to a chewing tobacco alternative. They're little pouches full of coffee. And she's like, what? Wait, she goes, really, that's a thing? And I was like, yeah, a little pouch of coffee. But each pouch only has 1/3 of a cup of coffee in it. So I figured it's not too bad, right? She goes, how many have you had in the past 24 hours? I was like, I don't know, maybe like 12 or something like that. And she goes, do you have them on you now? And she's like, yeah. I was like, yeah. And she's looking at them and she goes, here's the thing. These might only have 1/3 a cup of coffee in them, but you're putting them directly into your bloodstream. You're not digesting it as coffee. So she goes, listen, we did your blood work. I go, could the keto have caused this? And she said, most likely not. She goes, we did your blood work. It came back totally fine. So I don't have any cholesterol issues. She goes, your blood pressure is fine. She goes, this whole event caused no stress on your heart or your lungs. You had no major complications from this. The doctor says, and she put it in the paperwork, I'm almost for sure this was caused by a caffeine incident, i.e. overdose is my word. She didn't use the term caffeine overdose, but she says this most likely was caused by the caffeine. If you stay away from caffeine, and she goes, don't do the pouches anymore. And I was like, yep, done. So she goes, that's probably what caused it. So a lot of people have, these were the sorry this is going so long for new listeners, but I wanted to clear the air so there's nothing going on. A lot of people thought it was the turmeric, which is funny because just 2 days or 3 days before, I thought, I'm going to stop messing around with the turmeric because it's obviously having some sort of bad reaction. That's not what should happen when you take turmeric. So I actually had stopped that like on Thursday. I was like, I'm not going to mess with it anymore. Some people think that, and that's a rational thing. Jason, you're taking a pill in the form it's not created for, and you're telling people making you sleepy. Wasn't that though? I'd stopped doing that. Some people thought it was Veronica the Haunted Doll. It was not Veronica the Haunted Doll. I can assure you of that. Right, Veronica? Yeah, no, she's just been chilling over there with my stuffed pig, and puppy dolls. She's totally fine. It wasn't Veronica. And then what was the other... other people thought it was because I was dieting or it was the keto itself. So it wasn't any of those things. Well, Veronica, put a little asterisk maybe, but most likely not. So most likely the caffeine. So they said no more chewing, no more putting coffee in your mouth for hours on end, because I would take one out, put another one in, just like I used to do chewing tobacco. And they said you can maybe have 1 to 2 caffeinated. For right now, don't have any caffeinated beverages if you can help it. And I haven't had any since. And they said, in the future, limit yourself to 1 to 2 caffeinated beverages a day. Also, don't drink. And I don't drink anyways, but they said if you drink, it could cause it again. They said this is very common. And they said it's super treatable. It doesn't really it can cause health problems down the road. So I don't want you guys... First off, I'm in the hospital cracking up at all the comments people are leaving me. So I really appreciate all the comments, all the support, all the love I've gotten from you guys. I really, really appreciate that. Secondly, don't worry about me because this was a one-off. Most likely, I have a doctor's appointment tomorrow and I'll probably have to see a cardiologist after that. But this was most likely a one-off event brought by a rolling 24-hour period of massive caffeine use. So don't worry about me. But I really appreciate the support, and I really appreciate that you guys let me rant on about that for 8 minutes. Now, that being said, I did say that I have a doctor's appointment tomorrow, and I'm on a medicine I apologize it's taking so long. This is saying what's going forward. I'm on a medication. They did put me on beta blockers, which actually limits how fast my heart can beat, because when I left the hospital, I was still in AFib. I was still having... You know what? I might actually break this up into 2 episodes. I might have this episode just be the health episode, and then I'll release a ghost episode after that, but we're going to split it, so we'll figure that out. So you don't have to listen to all this stuff if you just want to hear about ghosts. But where was I going with that? Oh, yeah. So when I left the hospital, my heart was still out of rhythm. So as far as it doesn't feel like it's out of rhythm right now, but as far as I know, it's still out of rhythm. So I'm going to do this episode today. I will not have an episode come out. I feel really bad about this, but I will not have an episode come out tomorrow because I got to go to the doctor and I'm feeling really, really tired. So that's where we're at right now. So we have today's episode. We won't have an episode tomorrow. We should have an episode for the next 2 days of the week. So I apologize for that, but I have to take these beta blockers in the morning and at night. And I'm going to take one tonight, and then I'm going to just go to sleep all the way to the morning, which is what humans normally do. And then, wake up. That's the next step. Wake up and then go to the doctor's appointment. I'm not going to worry about busting an episode out quickly in the morning and all that stuff. So I apologize for that. But I'm healthy. Everything going forward, supposedly healthy, most likely caffeine. Everything else going forward, we're going to be good. Let's go ahead and actually get started with the episode, though. Let's go ahead and get started with the episode. So thank you for your patience. I'm sure a lot of you skipped past that, and I don't care. That's totally fine. Give me the ghost is what you're saying. Give me the ghost. So